Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Morton. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Director of Artist and Studio Programs here at Baltimore Clayworks, and we are thrilled that you all have joined us. I would like to acknowledge that I'm joining from my office located on Piscataway and Susquehannock land, currently known as Baltimore, Maryland. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our virtual studio tour given today by Saunders. Allie is a ceramic artist from Bernie, Texas, who makes functional pottery using pattern and color. She received her Bachelor's of Arts from the University of St. Thomas and her Master of Fine Arts from Louisiana State University. After graduating from the University of St. Thomas, she was a resident at Flower City Art Center in Rochester, New York. Most recently, she has been the Salad Days resident at Watershed Center for Ceramic Arts, where she made 450 plates to be a part of the Salad Days event in July 2023. Saunders is inspired by the growth and abundance in nature and makes work that connects to legacy of female makers in her family. For more information about our artist talks, please visit our virtual library at baltimoreclayworks.org and tune in for our next studio tour on Tuesday, March 31st with Jennifer Shaw from 1:30 to 2. I will now turn it over to Allie.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to my studio. So this is my second year of the residency at Baltimore Clayworks. So I'm in a new space. It's hard to see from the camera angles, but I have a window here and then there's a window in that corner. So that's nice. A couple things I've been up to recently. I was in the American Craft Made Baltimore show at the Convention Center here in Baltimore. I was one of their, they don't call it emerging artists, they call it something else, but it was like their emerging artist setup. And then I've been making pots for NCECA, which if you don't know is the big national clay conference that's held each year. This year is in Detroit, but next year it's actually in Baltimore. So I've been making pots, and then this morning I packed most of them up. And I'm not actually going to be there, but my pots will, and they're going to be at the Baltimore Clayworks Expo booth or gallery setup, whatever you want to call it. So my pots will be there. Things that are coming up. In August, I'm going to have a solo show at Baltimore Clayworks. I haven't really started making work for that yet, but I've been doing a lot of research. I've been looking at a lot of Betty Woodman's work and some of her hanging pieces. And I'm interested in having hanging pieces to frame the pottery that I make. And I'm also really interested in having sets. I've made it as my goal before to make sets, but not really followed through with it. So this time I really want to focus on that. So another thing that's changed besides the studio space, in the past couple weeks, I think 3 weeks ago, I switched to using a red clay. I'm trying out Scott's Red, which is a standard Cone 6. It's like a deep red. It's not like a terracotta red. And so I've been using that. So why did I change? I was frustrated with the porcelain that I was using. It was kind of more yellow than I wanted it to be. And I was also frustrated with the way the glaze was working with my decoration. And I don't know that that was the clay's fault. I think I was struggling a bit from switching EPK out of my recipe since that's no longer available. So I just decided to change. And I thought it was going to be a really easy switch, but it hasn't been. Some of my colors are reading differently on this clay. So I've been trying out some new color combinations. And I've also had some trouble with putting a lot of slip on the clay and it peeling off. But by a lot of slip, I mean like 12 layers or something crazy that I don't know that many clays would be able to handle it. I think I'll probably stay with it because at least for a while, because I want to do some hand building with it. And so that porcelain I was using isn't great for hand building. And I think the bread will give me more flexibility for that. So at least for a while, I'm going to stick with it. But it's definitely been more challenging to switch over than I expected. Anyways, so I have some samples of some of this work. You can see me from here. Um, so these are some pots that are on the red clay, and you can see the red at the bottom. Um, and here's like a vase. So I'm still really interested in combining patterns. Um, and so I'm trying to think of things not only for the glazed portion of my pots, but also to have unglazed portions. And I want those unglazed portions to highlight the clay, but also have pattern on them as well. So I I haven't totally figured out how I'm going to use these, but I ordered a whole bunch of these little cutters. Um, these are like made for polymer clay, but I'm interested in like the different shapes that they have. So I don't know if I'll use them as like a cutter, which is what they're intended for, or if I just use their shape as stencils or some combination of both. But I'm really interested in the shapes that came with this. And then I've also been doing a few of these. They're kind of like collages. They're not really functional. I don't know if you can see them, but I've been making a few of these. So so I finally have some time with ACC, the ACC show, and in Sika. I've been really busy just making cups, but now I finally have some time in my studio just to experiment and try new things. And that's where these kind of collage pieces were going. And what I'm thinking about these, what they're going to be, are some wall hangings. Not these ones specifically, but once I start making the wall hangings. Um, because, and I'm also going to try some of this on cups. It's not the best for the interior of a plate because this is raised. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with this, but it's just kind of fun to play around with now, and just try different patterns and colors and all of that. So most of the patterns I make with paper stencils, and I have a laser cutter that I cut those paper stencils out. And then some of these newer pieces, I've used like those little cutters to make little like circle shapes here. So mostly laser cutting, but I'm exploring some new ways to make those patterns too with these cutters I was showing you. Because they work both as like a cutter that cuts all the way through, but they also work as like a slight indent that you could use for like inlay or something like that. So yeah. So these collages I have here, I cut circles out of clay. And I've been doing in my sketchbook, I can't ever remember the difference between a compass and a protractor, but the one that makes circles, I've just been drawing circles in my sketchbook and then like sketching different shapes onto them. And so these are the first ones that I actually put on clay. And I started with the background. I used one of my laser cut stencils, so I used these flower shapes, and then I put a color over it. It's hard to tell from here, but this is actually maroon. And then I cut out these shapes and attached them over the slip decoration. And then this here, I added these circle shapes, which were some of those cutters I was showing. And then this is just like a bright orange slip that I just cut some lines into. And this one's made similarly. The background is these dots that I did first. And then I added these pieces over. And on this one, I put this leaf pattern. And on this one is just circles that are from those cutters again. So, yeah, it's really fun. I ordered some texture rollers and some texture mats that I'm going to use with this as well too, just to add to the. Because I think the fun part about doing like a collage is when you have like, maybe not everyone has this, but I kind of thrive in chaos. And when there's just a whole bunch of things around you and you're like picking and choosing and moving pretty quickly, I think that's what's fun about doing collage. So I'm trying to maximize like the different surfaces I can have. I haven't played around with this clay to know that what it looks like, just raw clay with a clear glaze over it. Often with red clays, when you do that, it doesn't look great. So then I would glaze the areas that have slip on slip rather than the areas that have raw clay and then slip on top of it. But yeah, I'm still figuring that out. I mean, in these ones, I glazed this portion, and then this portion is just raw clay. So some combination of pattern and raw clay. I've been interested to see uh, how if I could add porcelain to my collages, like if the porcelain and the red clay would work together. Sometimes in the past, I've thrown porcelain knobs on stoneware clay. Um, so I thought if that works, maybe porcelain would work here. So I thought about adding some of that in, and maybe staining the porcelain with mason stains to get some colors. So I think I've been thinking about what my favorite tool is because I know that always comes out. And I think last time I said it was a rib, which is probably in this here. But I actually think now it's an X-Acto knife. Because I do use that a lot. And I have this pink one that I like. So